Verses 25 to 30. Paul pleaded his privilege as a Roman citizen, by which he was exempted from all trials and punishments of this nature, v. 25, as they bound him with thongs, or leathern bands, to the whipping post, as they used to bind the vilest of malefactors in Bridewell, from whom they would extort a confession. He made no outcry against the injustice of their proceedings against an innocent man, but very mildly let them understand the illegality of their proceedings against him as a citizen of Rome, which he had done once before at Philippi after he had been scourged, ch. 1637, but here he makes use of it for prevention. He said to the centurion that stood by, "You know the law, pray is it lawful for you who are yourselves Romans to scourge a man that is a Roman, and uncondemned?" The manner of his speaking plainly intimates what a holy security and serenity of mind this good man enjoyed, not disturbed either with anger or fear in the midst of all those indignities that were done him, and the danger he was in. The Romans had a law, it was called lex Sempronia, that if any magistrate did chastise or condemn a freeman of Rome, indita causa without hearing him speak for himself, and deliberating upon the whole of his case, he should be liable to the sentence of the people, who were very jealous of their liberties. It is indeed the privilege of every man not to have wrong done him, except it be proved he has done wrong, as it is of every Englishman by Magna Carta not to be disseized of his life or freehold, but by a verdict of 12 men of his peers. The chief captain was surprised at this, and put into a fright. He had taken Paul to be a vagabond Egyptian, and wondered he could speak Greek, ch. 2137, but is much more surprised now he finds that he is as good a gentleman as himself. How many men of great worth and merit are despised because they are not known, are looked upon and treated as the offscouring of all things, when those that count them so, if they knew their true character, would own them to be of the excellent ones of the earth. The chief captain had centurions, under officers, attending him, ch. 2132. One of these reports this matter to the chief captain, v. 26. Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman, and what indignity is done to him will be construed an offense against the majesty of the Roman people, as they loved to speak. They all knew what a value was put upon this privilege of the Roman citizens. Tully extols it in one of his orations against verse, O nomen dulce libertatis, O jus eximium nostri civitatis, O lex Portia, O legis Sempronii, facinus est vincere Romanum civem, solus verberare O liberty. I love thy charming name, and these are Portian and Sempronian laws, how admirable! It is a crime to bind a Roman citizen, but an unpardonable one to beat him. Therefore, says the centurion, let us look to ourselves, if this man be a Roman, and we do him any indignity, we shall be in danger to lose our commissions at least. The chief captain would be satisfied of the truth of this from his own mouth, v. 27. Tell me, art thou a Roman? Art thou entitled to the privileges of a Roman citizen? Yes, says Paul, I am, and perhaps produced some ticket or instrument which proved it, for otherwise they would scarcely have taken his word. The chief captain very freely compares notes with him upon this matter, and it appears that the privilege Paul had as a Roman citizen was of the two more honorable than the colonel's, for the colonel owns that his was purchased, I am a freeman of Rome, but with a great sum obtained I this freedom, it cost me dear, how came you by it? Why truly, says Paul, I was freeborn. Some think he became entitled to this freedom by the place of his birth, as a native of Tarsus, a city privileged by the emperor with the same privileges that Rome itself enjoyed. Others rather think it was by his father or grandfather having served in the war between Caesar and Antony, or some other of the civil wars of Rome, and being for some signal piece of service rewarded with a freedom of the city, and so Paul came to be freeborn, and here he pleads it for his own preservation, for which end not only we may but we ought to use all lawful means. This put an immediate stop to Paul's trouble. Those that were appointed to examine him by scourging quitted the spot, they departed from him, v. 29, lest they should run themselves into a snare. Nay, and the colonel himself, though we may suppose him to have a considerable interest, was afraid when he heard he was a Roman, because, though he had not beaten him, yet he had bound him in order to his being beaten. Thus many are restrained from evil practices by the fear of man who would not be restrained from them by the fear of God. See here the benefit of human laws and magistracy, and what reason we have to be thankful to God for them, for even when they have given no countenance nor special protection to God's people and ministers, yet, by the general support of equity and fair dealing between man and man, they have served to check the rage of wicked and unreasonable illegal men, who otherwise would know no bounds, and to say, hitherto it shall come, but no further, here shall its proud waves be stayed. And therefore this service we owe to all in authority, to pray for them, because this benefit we have reason to expect from them, whether we have it or no, as long as we are quiet and peaceable, to live quiet and peaceable lives in all godliness and honesty. The governor, the next day, brought Paul before the Sanhedrim, v. 30. He first loosed him from his bands, that those might not prejudge his cause, and that he might not be charged with having pinioned a Roman citizen, and then summoned the chief priests and all their council to come together to take cognizance of Paul's case, for he found it to be a matter of religion, and therefore looked upon them to be the most proper judges of it. Gallio in this case discharged Paul, finding it to be a matter of their law. He drove the prosecutors from the judgment seat, ch. 18:16, and would not concern himself at all in it, but this Roman, who was a military man, kept Paul in custody, and appealed from the rabble to the General Assembly. We may hope that hereby he intended Paul's safety, as thinking, if he were an innocent and inoffensive man, though the multitude might be incensed against him, yet the chief priests and elders would do him justice, and clear him, for they were, or should be, men of learning and consideration, and their court governed by rules of equity. When the prophet could find no good among the poorer sort of people, he concluded that it was because they knew not the way of the Lord, nor the judgments of their God, and promised himself that he should speak better among the great men, as the chief captain here did, but soon found himself disappointed there. These have altogether broken the yoke, and burst the bonds. That which he is here said to aim at is the gratifying of his own curiosity. He would have known the certainty wherefore he was accused of the Jews. Had he sent for Paul to his own chamber, and talked freely with him, he might soon have learned from him that which would have done more than satisfy his inquiry, and which might have persuaded him to be a Christian. But it is too common for great men to affect to set that at a distance from them which might awaken their consciences, and to desire to have no more of the knowledge of God's ways than may serve them to talk of.